Most people begin their journey believing the reward is waiting at the finish line. They picture the car, the house, the applause, the recognition. They imagine a moment in the future where everything finally feels complete. But after years of watching people win, lose, rise, fall, and rebuild, I've learned something most never realize. It was never really about the finish line. It was about who you had to become to reach it. That's why obsession can't be with the result. It has to be with the work. Because results are only evidence. They're the byproduct. The real reward is the person you turn into through the process. Think about how growth actually works. When you plant a seed, you don't stand over the soil every day demanding proof. You don't dig it up to check if it's working. You water it. You protect it. You tend the soil. And then one day, growth appears. Not because you obsessed over the sprout, but because you obsessed over the process. The problem is most people quit before the sprout ever breaks the surface. They assume nothing is happening because nothing is visible. They think the work isn't working, when in reality, it's working quietly, invisibly. That's why discipline matters most before results give you any encouragement. I've met countless people who spend all their energy dreaming about success. They imagine themselves standing at the top of the mountain, but they never practice climbing. And it's not the dream that gets you to the top. It's the climb, the daily steps, the effort, the discomfort. You can't skip the climb and still expect the view. This is why the mindset has to shift. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That's what it means to be obsessed with the work. Because if you only chase results, frustration is guaranteed. The world doesn't hand them out on schedule. But if you chase improvement, if you fall in love with the grind, results eventually chase you. That's what this conversation is really about. Building a way of living where you measure yourself not by trophies or applause, but by consistency. You measure progress by the work you did today, not the recognition that may or may not come tomorrow. Because recognition fades. Trophies gather dust, but discipline lasts. And once you make that shift, once the work itself becomes the reward, everything changes. Pressure goes down, enjoyment goes up, and results start appearing almost by surprise, because you're too busy working to notice when they arrive. Most people aim entirely at the outcome, the paycheck, the title, the applause. They want to look in a mirror one day and see a finished picture. But here's the truth. You never get results first. You get work first. You get effort first. You get discipline first. And if your motivation depends on seeing results quickly, you'll quit the moment they don't show up on time. You see this everywhere. Someone starts working out. 2 weeks pass. The mirror hasn't changed, so they stop. Someone starts saving money. Months go by. Freedom still feels far away, so they quit. Why? Because their eyes were glued to the outcome instead of the process that creates it. Life doesn't reward impatience. You don't get harvest without planting. You don't get reward without sweat. And if your motivation is tied to immediate payoff, you'll disappear before anything meaningful can grow. Results are deceptive. They often arrive later than expected. And that gap between effort and reward is where most people give up. That's the graveyard of dreams. The ones who succeed are the ones who learn to love the work. They show up not because the result is visible yet, but because the process has become part of who they are. If you focus only on what you get, you'll quit. If you focus on who you're becoming, you'll keep going. Because the work you do daily isn't just producing something. It's shaping someone. And that someone is you. That's the trap of chasing results. I'll be happy when, I'll be satisfied when, I'll keep going only if. That mindset keeps you chasing but never becoming. Living on fragile conditions. Waiting for something outside of you to give permission to continue. The shift happens when you decide, I'm not here just for the trophy. I'm here for the person I become along the way. The process is where real transformation lives. Results are snapshots, moments. The process is the ongoing story of who you're becoming every day. Every time you show up, you cast a vote for your future self. Every repetition, every discipline choice. That's where identity is formed. And here's something most people don't realize until much later. The process doesn't just change what you can do. It changes what you believe about yourself. Every day you show up when it would be easier not to, you send yourself a message. I can be trusted. I keep my word. I don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. That kind of self-trust can't be bought. It can't be downloaded. It can only be earned through repetition. This is why consistency is so powerful. Not because it guarantees success overnight, but because it builds an internal foundation that doesn't collapse when results are delayed. When you know you can rely on yourself, doubt loses its grip. Fear gets quieter. Confidence becomes calm instead of loud. And once you have that, you stop needing external validation to keep going. You don't need applause. You don't need permission. You don't need constant proof that you're on the right path. The work itself becomes enough. I once knew a man who wanted to become a writer. He dreamed of a book that would inspire people. But the image of the finished product overwhelmed him. His name on the cover, the applause, the weight of expectation. So he never started. I told him something simple. Don't get obsessed with the book. Get obsessed with the page. 1 page a day. 1 page became 2. 2 became chapters. Chapters became a manuscript. The book came years later. But by then, he had already become a writer through the process. That's the secret. The work doesn't just produce results. It produces identity. A runner becomes a runner not at the finish line, but in the daily act of showing up. A leader becomes a leader not when the title arrives, but in the quiet moments of responsibility when no one is watching. And here's the beauty of it. Who you become is far more valuable than any result you could achieve. Results can be taken away. Titles can be lost. Money can vanish. But who you become, that stays. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. The daily process might feel heavy now, but it's nothing compared to the weight of looking back and realizing you never became who you could have been. Every time you persist instead of quitting, character is being built. And character will carry you when results feel distant. If you demand reward without process, you become fragile. If you embrace the process, you become strong. And something interesting happens when you fall in love with the work. Results often show up when you least expect them. You look back after a year and realize you've covered miles you didn't even notice because you were focused on the work. That's the miracle of process. It turns the journey into the reward. This is where real freedom begins. When you no longer depend on motivation to act. When you no longer depend on results to feel worthy. When you no longer depend on recognition to stay committed. You start operating from discipline instead of emotion. From intention instead of impulse. And that changes everything. We live in a culture obsessed with finish lines. Titles, numbers, applause. And don't misunderstand me. Results matter. But if they're the only reason you show up, you won't last. Results don't come every day. Work does. The person who ties their emotions to outcomes lives on a roller coaster. High when things go right, crushed when they don't. But the person tied to process finds steadiness because the work belongs to them. You can't control timing, markets, circumstances, but you can control effort, habits, discipline. Get obsessed with that part. Life isn't shaped by one grand decision. It's shaped by small daily ones. When you wake up, how you spend your morning, whether you choose discipline or distraction. Those choices cast votes. And enough votes create an outcome that can't be avoided. So stop waiting for applause. Stop tying happiness to milestones. Learn to love the work, the repetition, the grind. Because if you fall in love with the process, you'll never lose, even if the result takes longer than expected. Success isn't the trophy. It's who you became while chasing it. This is Inspivox, and you're watching Inspivox Studio. Fuel your mind. Build your future.